Hello and welcome to the Nonprofit Investment Hub YouTube channel. Just before we jump into today's video, I wanted to let you know that our webinars typically are very content heavy. And so we've included timestamp chapters that you can click on to navigate to a particular section if need be. They'll also be included in the description. Also, if we happen to have published a video in the future that covers this same topic with more up-to-date information, we'll be sure to pop a link to that in the description below. Finally, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video if you find it useful, and explore our library of content. You can visit our website to learn more about how we partner with nonprofits or connect with us on LinkedIn. You can find us there under the Nonprofit Investment Hub page, or you can connect with me directly, Chris Carey, also. And with that, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to see you, Brett, that you're on. And we are going to be getting started here with our webinar, Unlocking Stock Gifts, a Toolkit for Nonprofits. In these last several years, as we've been building out the nonprofit team here at Carnegie, we've realized how underutilized gifts of stock are for nonprofits. And so we are excited to talk about gifts of stock, how your organization can attract them, how do you talk about them with donors, and really what are the benefits of donating stock for both you as the organization and for the nonprofit. So getting started here, I'm going to go through a few fun stats here. Would love to hear from you. What percentage of wealth in the US is held in non-cash assets like stocks and real estate? We'd love to put it in the chat what you think. We've got a few answers here on the board. I know I was very surprised when I heard this stat. We'll give a couple, and actually, I'm trying to pull up my chat here. So what percentage of wealth in the US is held in non-cash assets like stocks and real estate? Well, that answer is actually 90%. 90% of wealth in the US is held in non-cash assets. And really why this stat is so important for our talk today, it's because if your organization is only asking for cash, then you're really only tapping into a small portion of wealth. Got another fun one here for you. What percentage of donations are typically made in December? Now, of course, this is the giving season, and people, of course, are feeling philanthropic around the holidays. But there are other reasons why this timing is so powerful. And yes, and I see Ashley there commented C, and yes, it's roughly 30% of all donations made throughout the whole year come in December, and even more surprisingly, 10% of all donations come in those last 3 days of the year. And now it's not that those donors don't want to support your mission and don't love you and don't want to do good. Of course they do, but they are not rushing in those last 3 days. They've got lots going on in those last 3 days of the year. They're not rushing to get you that donation because you need it right now. They're making those gifts because they want to take advantage of tax write-offs and other tax advantages and get it locked in this year. So our goal today is really to equip you with the knowledge and the language that you need so that you can talk about and attract gifts of stock effectively. And really, how do you talk about that with donors? We're going to go through all of that. So here's just a quick overview of what we are going to cover today. We want you to be able to understand how stock gifts differ from cash. What are the benefits for both the organization and the individual donor? We want you to be able to identify donors within your current donor base that are likely to give stock and that we know are probably good fits to take advantage of those benefits of donating stock. We want to make sure that you know how to get set up for your organization to be able to receive those gifts of stock so you're ready, especially coming into year end when timing is everything. And then we also want to make sure that you know how to communicate with your donors and when to do it at the right time. We'll have a few bonus resources for you. Also, we'll talk about what ways to give page is and what should be on it. And I also have a template to share with you that you can pull from language to easily build your own ways to give page. And then we'll be sharing our 11 ways to give guide, which goes into um, gifts of stock and also other non-cash and unique ways to give. And that gives you some nice language to share with your donors. So, real quickly before we dive in, who are we? We at Carnegie are a registered investment advisor, which means we are required by and monitored by the SEC to be a fiduciary and always have our clients' best interests at heart. We're headquartered here in Cleveland, Ohio, but we have locations all across the US. And we have approximately $7.3 billion in assets under management. And that spans across nonprofits, associations, institutions, as well as individuals. And we have really spent the last 5 or so years building out our nonprofit team here at Carnegie. And part of that is realizing that your endowment, your investments are really just one piece of your overall fundraising strategy. And so we have dedicated ourselves to creating tools and resources that can help you not only hopefully grow in the market, but also grow your fundraising and major donors as well. And so we create tools like this webinar to help make your jobs a little bit easier. So, who are you going to be hearing from today? I am Megan Lankowski, the Nonprofit Development Specialist here at Carnegie. I've spent the last 12 plus years in the nonprofit world, working in fundraising, development, and board education, and really helping nonprofits open up their revenue streams to different and unique types of gifts. You'll also be hearing from Chris Carey, who is on the call as well today. Chris is Vice President and Portfolio Manager at Carnegie, specializing in investments for nonprofits. With a deep understanding of the financial markets and the nonprofit sector, Chris really provides strategic guidance that can help your nonprofit organization achieve your long-term financial goals. So just a couple housekeeping notes before we dive in. Today's webinar will be recorded and we'll send that out to everybody. Also keep an eye out for those resources that will also be in the follow-up email. And then finally, we will have time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to drop in your questions in the chat as they come along and you think about them. We'll try to either stop and address them or come back and address them as well. Just a quick disclaimer before we dive in. This information in this presentation is for general informational purposes only and isn't intended for tax or legal advice. What it comes down to is that every situation is different and there are always some sort of loopholes. And so we want to make sure that you are getting the specific customized advice for your specific situation. And so we recommend that everybody consults with a qualified tax or legal professional to address your specific circumstances. All right, Chris, so let's get started. Can you tell us how are stock gifts different from regular donations? I mean, isn't it all just money?
That's a great question, Megan. Hi, everyone, by the way. Lovely to see you. So let's dive in. You think money is money, but actually when it comes down to stock gifts or securities in general, it's not quite that simple. When a donor gives stock instead of cash, it opens up a whole new world of opportunity, both for them and the nonprofit. It's kind of like finding a secret door to generosity that most people don't even realize exists. So let's get started on the nonprofit side first. Why should your organization care about stock gifts? Well, there's a few big reasons why they matter. First is larger contributions. When donors give appreciated stock, they can often make bigger gifts than they could in cash. They're not paying capital gains taxes, so they can give more, and it doesn't cost them any extra. And when you invite donors to give from their total wealth, not just what's sitting in their bank accounts, in their heads, you're unlocking a much larger pool of potential support. And we've seen this firsthand. We have clients on the family wealth side of our firm where clients make yearly gifts of appreciated stock instead of cash. Some of the sizes of these gifts wouldn't make sense to use cash in the first place, and when there are tax advantage methods, we can help them to give in a much more efficient way. And the second is long-term sustainability. Stock gifts become a part of an ongoing giving strategy. Some donors make annual donations and others use them to seed an endowment or fund a multi-year program. And that kind of reliable support gives your organization breathing room to plan ahead. The third is that there's no immediate sale required. Now, once your nonprofit receives a stock donation, you can choose when to sell it. My advice personally to organizations is to always liquidate if possible, as long as it's not some sort of obscure illiquid security that takes a little bit more handholding, but that's very rare. But you can liquidate securities right away, or you could hold on for it for a bit. It depends on what is your financial strategy and what your advisor, if you have one, recommends. What does matter, though, is that you have a policy in place on how to treat these. And then finally, there's untapped potential. And this one's big. Most nonprofits almost entirely focus on cash gifts, but 90+% of wealth in the US is held outside non-cash assets, like stocks and real estate. So if you're only asking for cash, that's a huge portion of donor wealth that you've left untouched. And there's actually data to back this up. A Texas Tech University study looked at over 1 million nonprofit tax returns. Nonprofits that only accepted cash saw just 11% growth. It's not bad, but when you compare that to organizations that accepted non-cash gifts, those contributions grew by 66%. So when you think about it, stock gifts aren't really just a nice to have thing. They're one of the most smartest ways that you can grow sustainable revenue from big donors and deepen those relationships. And of course, there are major benefits for the donor too, which I've alluded to. And that brings us to our next slide, because stock gifts can be a great way for donors to give. First is rather easy. Once a nonprofit has a brokerage account set up, the donor or their financial advisor can handle the transfer, typically with a DocuSign form with their custodian. And this is very common practice, more than you might realize. Custodians deal with this sort of request every single day. Typically, the submission of the form and the transfer occur on the same day. The second is that it allows donors to give without affecting their cash flow. Many people have most of their wealth tied up in investments. So by donating stock instead of cash, they can make a meaningful gift without it affecting their budget. It's a way to give generously, but strategically. And finally, it can be one of the most tax efficient ways to give. Let's dive in a bit further on what that actually means. So when a donor gives appreciated stock directly to the nonprofit, they forego paying capital gains tax on the increase in value from when they bought it. If they were to sell that same security and then subsequently donate the cash, they'd owe taxes on the gains, which effectively means that a portion of their gift goes to the IRS instead of your organization. By donating the shares directly, they receive the full value of the stock goes to the organization, and also not if the stock has been held for more than 1 year, then the donor can deduct the full fair market value of that gift on their taxes. That means they're getting credit for the entire current value of the stock, not just what they originally paid for it. And in many cases, they're giving more and saving more all at once. And if the donor, say like the donor owns a stock and let's use Nvidia as that's everyone's favorite stock at the moment. They have a huge gain in it, but they don't want to lose exposure to that name in the account. They don't want to sell it. There's actually still a way that they could effectively raise their cost basis. So let's say they bought it at $10 a share and it now trades at $200 a share. They've got a capital gain effectively of $190 per share. Now let's say they want to donate $10,000 to your organization. And they could donate the cash if they wanted to. But what they should do is they should donate the $10,000 worth of Nvidia to your nonprofit. And then as soon as the shares have left the account, they can deposit $10,000 cash right back into their account, buy $10,000 worth of shares of Nvidia, and now their new cost basis is $200 a share. If they ever want to reduce their exposure in the future, the capital gains hit isn't going to be anything like it was previously. And this isn't some sort of, pie in the sky theory. This is a strategy that our clients use here. We've had instances where they've said, let us donate XYZ security, let us know how much it was valued at, and then we'll write you a check for that same amount to buy those shares back. It's a great option for them. Make sure that you're speaking with your donors and their, for the larger donors, their overall financial team on tax efficient ways to give. Altogether, it's one of the most tax efficient things you can do, and it's a very, very smart way for nonprofits to invite larger, more meaningful gifts. So I gave you a quick example, but let's put some numbers on screen here. Imagine our friend Tony here bought 200 shares of stock at $100 each. That means his original investment was 20 grand. 10 years later, those shares are worth 300. So now his investment has grown to 60 grand. Good job, Tony. Now he's also a charitably inclined person and he wants to make a donation. If he were to sell those shares first and then donate the cash, he'll owe capital gains taxes on the $40,000 increase in value. To simplify things, let's assume a 20% capital gains tax rate. It changes based on a whole bunch of other factors, but let's say 20 today. So that means he's going to have to pay Uncle Sam $8,000 in taxes, which in turn means that the nonprofit is going to receive a $52,000 donation instead of the full 60. But if Tony decides that he wants to donate those shares directly to the nonprofit, he doesn't owe any capital gains taxes. He can deduct the full $60,000 fair market value on his taxes, and your organization receives that entire $60,000. So by giving the stock directly instead of selling it, Tony saves on taxes, gets a larger deduction, and the nonprofit gets a bigger gift. Everyone wins, and it's a perfect example of how stock donations can make a real difference for both sides. So when should you start promoting them? The simple answer is now. It's never too early to start promoting stock gifts. Every nonprofit, no matter its size, has donors who are capable of giving in bigger, more impactful ways. Some of your donors may already be considering how to give beyond traditional cash donations, but they need you to open the door for them and let them know. And you'll see, and if you look at the chart on this slide, you'll see where it matters.
Yes.
So,
Sorry,
sorry,
Chris,
Megan,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to let you know that this was the study that Chris had mentioned earlier. I'm sorry that I got it a little bit out of order in my slides, but this is showing that Texas Tech University study where organizations that only accepted cash gifts saw just an 11% growth over that time period, but organizations that did accept and receive stock gifts saw a growth of 66% over that time period, which I
Yeah,
think is just so incredible.
exactly. It's a huge difference. And it's all because they were set up to accept these kinds of gifts that the opportunity came along. And we've actually seen this play out in real life. We know a nonprofit that missed out on a significant opportunity because they weren't prepared to accept stock donations. And I'm not lying here, they lost out on a multi-million-dollar stock gift because they didn't have the infrastructure in place to process stock contributions at year end when the donor was looking to make the gift and needed to do it quickly. The key takeaway here is that it's crucial to start promoting gifts now and be prepared to guide your donors through the process. But as with any successful fundraising strategy, knowing who to focus on is just as important as knowing when to start. And to dive deeper into that, I'm going to take a breather here in a second, and we're going to hear from Megan about how you can, identify your 4 ideal donor profiles, the people who are most likely to be interested in making stock donations, and share insights on how to educate and nurture those donors for success. And so really it comes down to being ready, having the right systems in place and knowing which donors to focus on. Because while anyone gives stock, there are certain types of donors who are much more likely to do it. And once you know who they are, it becomes a lot easier to have those conversations. And that's where Megan comes in. She's going to walk us through the donor profiles, who you should prioritize, and share how to identify and engage people who are the best fit for stock gifts. So Megan, it's enough from me. Who should nonprofits look to when they're thinking about making stock donations?
Thanks, Chris. All right, so who is more likely to give stock? Because you probably have donors already on your already in your CRM, in your donor on your donor list that could benefit from this type of giving. And not every donor is the same. I mean, we know that. I don't have to tell any of you that. We have donors all over the place, right? But really, what our job as fundraisers is to give our donors the tools and education so that they can support our organization the way that fits them and their life and where they're at financially. And so, all you are going to do is make sure that the right people have the right knowledge so that they can support your organization to the best of their ability. So there are four major donor types that are probably more likely to give stock. We have board members, established professionals, seasoned donors, and end of year tax planners. And we're going to talk a little bit about each of these donor profiles. So let's start with board members. These are the people that love your organization the most. They are your number one fans. They are there in the trenches with you. They know more about what's going on in your organization than most donors do. And so using your board to start to attract these types of gifts is a great strategy. You know, board members are already thinking strategically about how to support your organization, and they may be looking for ways to make a meaningful contribution without dipping into their cash flow. Many boards have a minimum required amount that they support, whether they provide that support monetarily or they bring in that support through partners. But having these conversations with your board is a great way to start to have those conversations and to let your development team dip their toes in this world. Use your board members as testers. Let them know that this is a new strategy that you're implementing, and that you would love to be able to test out your talks, the way that you can describe what the benefits are of gifts of stock. And one, so that they can know how they can best support your organization, but then also so that they're able to identify people who may be good fits for this type of gift, and that they can also educate people in their sphere. And this is really about not only just helping out your organization, but really helping donors better give to all organizations across the world. And remember to don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable with your board. Like I mentioned, your board knows so much more about your organization than most donors. They are in the trenches with you, and be oh allow yourself to open up to them and ask, this is something new for us. Can we test this out on you? And you can provide feedback. And so not only is your team getting that feedback that you can then take to other donors, but then that may open up a whole avenue for that board member to support you in an entirely new way. So our second donor profile is established professionals. So these donors are typically mid-career or later, and they can often be business owners, executives, or in professional fields. And it's most likely that these people have built significant wealth throughout their career. And so these folks are often big on giving back, but they've also worked hard for their wealth, and they want to make sure that their contributions go as far as possible. And so they're often interested in learning about ways to maximize their tax benefits while also supporting the causes that are, dear to their heart and that they care about. So, how do you engage with established professionals? Well, you're going to want to focus on the potential tax benefits and really how simple it is to donate stock. So, you could even offer them personalized consultations or educational resources to help them walk them through the process and make sure that they understand that it's really a simple process that they can work with their financial advisor or custodian to make that transfer of stock to you. Next on the list, we have seasoned donors. So these are really your long-term supporters. So people that have given year after year, time and time again, and often increasingly over time. So a little bit more than the previous year, then a little bit more the next year, then a little bit more the next year. We all have these donors on our list, and I know that when I was development director, we had a moves management system in place. It was often me doing it all, and sometimes those moves management conversations and tasks just didn't get done. And we all have those donors on our list that we know love us, and we know that they probably have the capacity to give more. And so having these conversations with those donors, making sure that they're educated, that the to know the benefits for themselves and for you as the organization of donating stock and what that could look like that for them. So, and when you are engaging with these loyal seasoned donors, you really want to make sure that you're recognizing their loyalty and acknowledging their ongoing commitment. We know, of course, we never want donors just to feel like an ATM. We want them to feel appreciated and know, and for them to know that we recognize all the support that they've given. And we just wanted to make sure that they're aware of all the tools that they can have in their tool belt to really support you the best way that fits them. Our last donor profile are end of year tax planners. Now, these donors are focused on maximizing their tax deductions as the year wraps up. And they are easy to find because you can identify them by pulling some reports from your CRM of people who have donated consistently, I would say consecutively for the last 3 to 5 years in November and December, especially December. You can take a look through your database, pull those reports, and have a full list of people who probably do definitely love your cause and love your mission and want to help. But these individuals probably have another thing on their mind, and that's the tax benefits. And so, how do you engage with these people? Well, timing is important. During your end of year fundraising, make sure that you're communicating the tax advantages of stock donations. Show them how quick and easy it is for them to transfer before year end so that they can lock in those potential tax benefits. This is going to be not that anyone needed this permission, but just in case you did, this is going to be your reminder that it is okay to send several targeted emails throughout the month of December. And even in that last month, remember that 10% of all donations come in those last few days of the year. So don't be afraid to send some targeted emails, especially people who have maybe clicked on one of your emails throughout the campaign, but then didn't follow through and make that donation. We know there's lots of reasons that can happen. And so give them another reminder, hey, just so you know, you still have 3 more days to make a donation and secure your tax write-off for this year. Making sure to communicate with those donors throughout these next really 2 months. I can't believe next week is November already. I'm sure all the fundraisers are saying, don't remind me. But as you are planning as you're working through your Giving Tuesday campaign, your year-end campaign, we'll talk about some specific ways that you can talk about gifts of stock throughout those campaigns. But this is just your reminder especially for these end of year tax planner donors, that communicating and educating throughout these next 2 months is really vital and important. So we did just go over these 4 donor profiles, and of course, these are good starting points to know who you can segment out and educate and focus on for gifts of stock. But I do want to throw in one reminder here, and that's to never count anybody out. So this car right here is a 2014 Cadillac. It is certainly no junky car, of course, but it is 11 years old now. And I'd love for anybody to put in their chat if anyone knows whose car this is. It's a little bit famous of the person that drives this car. As you're doing that, I'm going to tell another quick story from personally when I was development director. We had a man come to our shelter. I worked at a domestic violence shelter. We had a man show up, knock on the door, ask to speak with our executive director. He was in some farmer clothing. It was no nice business suit and tie. It was looked like he just came off of the farm, was a little bit dirty. And but our executive director, who's amazing, went out and spoke with him for, I don't know, about 30, 40 minutes. And at the end of that conversation, he said, I just came from another local organization and I asked to speak with someone and I sat there for 2 hours. Nobody coming to like check on me or, say, hey, we're sorry. And so he got up and left and walked over or drove to our shelter and said, I have $140,000 in stock that I'd like to donate to you. And so that is just a reminder that if we would have judged that book by its cover, we probably wouldn't have assumed that he would have been a major donor. But never to count anybody out and to really be open to having these conversations with anybody that is ready and willing to have this conversation. So this car, this 11-year-old car, is driven by Warren Buffett with an estimated net worth of $147 billion. And so that's just a reminder. We don't need to judge anybody by their looks or what we think. We're always going to be open to having those conversations. All right, so we have talked about what the benefits of donating stock are for both the donor and for your organization. We identified some key donor profiles that you can segment and target with specific communications. Now let's talk about how do you get set up to actually start receiving stocks. Chris, if we have anybody on the call here who is just getting started out, they have never received a gift of stock, and they don't even know where to start, what should they do to make sure that they're set up, coming in here for year end when it's a really important time?
Yeah. It's actually a lot simpler than you might think. And with just a couple of steps, you could be on your way. The first one is to open up a brokerage account in the name of your organization. If you're just getting started out, you don't have money set aside, you don't have an investment advisor, whatever it may be, you want to look for a brokerage that has no minimums. And Fidelity is actually a great example of this. Having this account ready allows you to easily receive stock gifts at any time when your donors are ready to give. And if you're having issues here, call us. We can point you to, right to the correct section on their website for the area to get started. In terms of creating, what the next step is, that's going to be to create a stock donation policy in those internal processes. So once the account's open, it's important to create that policy because it's going to speak to how you should treat those donations. If you were to ever use this donation as a seed for like a quasi-endowment, for instance, you'd actually want to also build an investment policy statement too, as your roadmap for how to invest those funds. And we have a resource, we have a webinar that we've done on how to actually build that for your nonprofit. We'll include it in the follow-up here. But further on that stock donation policy, you'll also want to make sure that your internal documentation and your stewardship processes are documented very well, and it details, when a donor wants to donate stock, who initiates the transaction, who needs to be notified, what follow-up documentation is required, etc., etc. And outlining these key details of your process is so vital because it will ensure that you're prepared and confident when those gifts come in. And there's finally, to promote and educate donors. Once they're just set up, it's time to spread the word. Start educating your donors on the potential benefits of giving stock, and communication really is key here, whether it's through your email, on your website, or at donor meetings. Make sure that you're highlighting the opportunity. So again, 1, 2, 3, open the account, build the internal framework, and then start communicating it. Now, Megan, you're going to review the last step for us, which is how to communicate these stock kits. So with that, please take it away.
All righty. So how are you going to start talking to donors and making sure that they know about this? Because one, donors might not know that this is even an option. We know somebody, an organization. Oh, I'm putting my thumbs up, and so it thinks I'm thumbsing up. Sorry, everybody. So we have heard of an organization who they had a donor who cashed out $1 million worth of stock, paid capital gains taxes on it, then donated the rest. And you would think that if somebody who is affluent enough to donate $1 million would have a financial advisor that would provide this information. Now, I have no idea why they didn't. Maybe the advisor just didn't even know that that was what she was doing. But the fact is that she did not know, and so she paid a lot of money in taxes, and then that organization received less of a donation. And so, one, we want to make sure that donors know about this option, and then two, we want donors to know that your organization is set up to receive this type of gift. We never want a donor to think, oh, well, maybe they don't even have a brokerage account, so I'm not even going to bother trying to figure all of that out or complicating things. But so when they know that this is an option and that you're ready and willing to accept this type of gift, those are going to be your keys and really moving the needle forward. So once we've identified the donors most likely to give, we can segment our donor base and then we can communicate with them in the ways that works for them. So I've got a couple examples of ways that you can incorporate stock giving into your current campaigns. All right, now I just said current campaigns. This would, if you do not have a ways to give page, this is going to require you to build a new landing page. So that is one little bit extra thing. However, I know oftentimes organizations do have ways to give page, but they just might not be complete. If your organization doesn't have a ways to give page, that is okay. I have created a ways to give landing page template that has several of the common different ways to give, like gift of stock, QCDs, bequests, giving from your DAF. That I'm going to share this template with you in the resources after the webinar. You'll be able to pull language from that template to help you easily build your landing page, insert organization name, success story, mission, but really the language that you would need to describe each of these types of gifts is going to be there for you. And so if you don't have a ways to give page, I really do recommend building one and having one on your website. As marketers and fundraisers, we know that conversion is really important, and so we don't necessarily want to muddy up your donate page a ton with lots of different ways to give necessarily. If we have a donor that wants to donate and clicks on the donate button, that should really take them right to a form so that they can make that donation of cash because they have a high intent of doing that. Really what this ways to give page is for is so that you're able to link to it throughout communications. You can do a quick plug and then click here for more info, and then people can go to that website to go to that landing page to read more information. We know if anybody else follows Marcus Sheridan and Endless Customers, if not, I highly recommend it for marketing. And we know that donors and consumers are doing more research online now more than ever. They are doing so much research on your organization oftentimes before they're even talking to you. And so, nobody likes to call or have to talk with somebody today. Oh no, let's do all the research we can online. And so make sure that your organization has that information readily available. Here's an example of what you can include. Again, this exact example is included in the template, so don't worry about trying to get it all down. I will also include this slide deck in the follow-up resources as well. So you'll get the recording and also the slide deck. So if you've built a ways to give page, you could take that one step further and build a dedicated stock donation landing page. We do this for many of our nonprofit clients. The reason that it's effective is because we want to make sure that we're highlighting all the benefits of this type of gift. A full landing page for stock donations just allows you to expand a little bit more instead of trying to truncate all the different ways of giving all on one page and still making it condensable and skimmable. We know we still want to make things easy to skim, easy to read. So this stock donation landing page really, all it does is have this short form on it that does not actually initiate any sort of transfer of stock. But what this form is here for is for when it is 9 p.m. at night and the donor is sitting on their couch with their hot cocoa and they stumble onto your website. Don't make them say, okay, yes, I'll call tomorrow and ask them about that. We know there are 1.5 million reasons why that phone call may never happen, even if they have the best of intentions. So having this stock donation landing page and a quick contact us form that captures some quick information, most importantly, who the donor is and how you can contact them so that you can then follow up with them and make sure that they have all the answers that they needed, that they have, if they have any questions, and walk them through what those steps are. So now let's talk about some current campaigns that you're already doing. How can you weave stock donations into these current campaigns? Well, in your direct mail appeals, weave in stock donations into the story. Here's an example. One of our longtime donors recently gave stock instead of cash, something many people don't even realize is an option. That gift helped us provide emergency housing for Erica, a survivor of domestic violence. And then go into Erica's story. Just a quick mention. All we're trying to do here is light up one little neuron in the brain probably isn't the right terminology, but something in the brain to say, oh, they accept gifts of stock. Okay. They may think about it for 1 second and then move on and not think about it again. But then maybe they get an email and we'll talk about that from you and another, oh yeah, oh, that's right. They make gifts of stock. Oh, okay. I'll have to remember that, coming year end when I want to make my year end tax donations. And then they forget about it. And then a social post comes up a month later that says, hey, mentions it. And so really the goal of your current campaigns, that what you're doing is to weave in little nuggets of that, hey, guess what? You can donate did you know you can donate stocks? Okay, here's this cool success story. Hey, did you know we are set up? We can accept gifts of stock if you're doing that already. All right, and here's how it helps us. You're really trying to remember take yourself as the organization out and show that hey, you as the donor can really benefit from this type of gift and then have this direct impact that's actually probably going to be larger than if you were to just make a cash donation. So even another idea in your direct mail appeal is to include a PS line. So there are lots of studies that we skim long letters and we read bullet points, some bolded. We normally read the first line and then we read the PS line. That PS line is read at a really high rate. And so include a quick PS. Did you know that you can make a gift of appreciated stocks and potentially save on taxes? visit our Ways to Give page for more info. Contact us here for more info. These are all just little nuggets that we're planting, little seeds that we're planting in the donor's mind. So here's social media. We're just keeping it short, visual, mission focused. You're not teaching the full process here, but we're just planting these seeds. So a few examples. Many donors are surprised to learn that giving stock can be one of the most tax efficient ways to support the causes that they love, to support our cause, to support survivors of domestic violence, to support feeding hungry children. Learn more here. Can again weave it into as a story. Erica showed up at our door with her 2 kids and a lot of courage. Because of people like you, she now has a safe place to call home and a steady job she loves. Every kind of gift makes that possible, from monthly donations to one supporter who recently gave through stock. Thank you for helping survivors of domestic violence like Erica take their next brave step. Thank you posts are a great way to, again, just sprinkle in this idea that there are different ways that you can support. You can support through monthly giving. You can leave a bequest, a legacy gift. These little seeds are going to grow over time. And so weaving them into your current posts, your current appeals, any of your current campaigns, anywhere you're currently communicating with donors is really going to be beneficial. Website CTAs. So I actually just for a client wrote a module and some language for their homepage to promote their Ways to Give page during Giving Tuesday and year end. So during this specific campaign, they wanted a specific call out. It could be a banner, it could be a little section on your webpage, maybe a pop-up, specific call out to say, hey, if you are here to make a gift, we just wanted you to know that there are lots of ways you can support us. And so click here to find out more. And here's our Ways to Give page. And then again, it's all about just giving the donor their tools and information that they need so that they can make the right decision for themselves. You're not saying, hey, you have to donate stock. You're just saying, hey, did you know there are benefits to this? And if it's going to benefit you, then we want you to know about it. And you could include it in your email signature. So including just a quick underneath all the normal contact us address. It's not too late to make your year-end gift, including gifts of stock or from your IRA. Learn more here. It can be campaign specific. It could be all year long. Maybe you have something in there. Just did you know there are more than one ways to support our organization? Click here to learn more. These are all ways that you're introducing the donors and educating them so that they can find the way that works best for them. All right, we are starting to wind down here. We've gone through a lot of information. We really wanted to create some tools for you that you can use right away to help you get started with this. And so, we are going to be sharing, as Chris mentioned, the how to craft an investment policy statement for your nonprofit. We have a webinar, an on-demand webinar recording. I will include the link to that so that if and when you get to that stage, you have the tools to help craft an investment policy statement. We also have a Ways to Give landing page template, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to allow you to easily build your own Ways to Give page that has language you can feel free to copy and paste and then adjust to fit your voice and your mission. And then the last thing I'm going to share is our 11 Ways to Give guide. So this expands a little more than just stock donations, but we wanted to include it because if you are having these discussions with donors, this gift of stock really may open up all different ways to give, QCDs, bequests. And so our 11 Ways to Give guide has great language that you're welcome to pull and use in your own communications. But it also is a tool that every type of gift has its own section that you can pull out, and it's actually written to be given to the donor so that the donor can understand all the different pros and cons of these different types of ways to give. So all of this will be coming your way with the recording and the presentation after the webinar so that you can take action, because I know that I've sat in on webinars and had lots of great ideas, and then I leave the webinar and those ideas stay in my head but don't get done. And so what I'm really hoping is that you can use these tools and set a little bit of time over these next few weeks as we are getting into year end to incorporate this language into some of your current campaigns and hopefully attract some gifts of stock for this year end. All right. So we have gone over a lot of information. We really want to be able to hear from you guys, though, and answer any specific questions that you have. So, as we've gone through this presentation, have there been questions that come up for you specifically? Maybe something sparked an idea for your organization and you're wondering how to apply this. We are open and here. Feel free to pick our brains. I am going to go into the chat here.
Yeah, we have a
Um,
question from Dawn.
yes, great. And Chris, I'll go ahead and read that and let you take it. So, should you put the person's name at your organization that you want donors to call on your website or landing page? Oh, sorry, Chris, I'll take this one. I was thinking it was going to be on the account. Yes, so I would recommend having a direct person that somebody can call and email. I would put their phone number and email. And put that on your ways to give page, put it in on other areas where you have a little bit of place to put it. Even if you have it as a button somewhere, it can be to a contact us form, or bringing up that person's information. But I would recommend having, if that's your major gifts officer, your development director, your executive director, having that email, phone number there for somebody to call if they have questions. That's a great idea, Dawn.
Great, thank you. And can I ask a question too?
Please,
Sure.
yes.
So having it, there's some different ideas about sometimes who that person should be. I feel that if it's a donation, it should be a external facing development person, and that they kind of there are different moving parts, but that you have someone who's kind of steering the ship and is responsible to the donor, because I think it's a little bit scary to the donor that there's an element of trust involved
Hmm.
in this transaction. When the stock comes into your organization, you don't always have the donor's name, so you have to be able to you're making that connection for your organization. It's like, oh, we got 1 million shares of Apple stock. Isn't that great? Well, that's from the donor, and we need to make
Hmm.
sure that they get credited for that. So just as a point of practicality, having that development person kind of play the main role seems to me that it is important.
I agree with everything that you said, Dawn. So there is, anytime we're getting into these major gifts, which often these gifts of stock are major gifts, that there is that level of trust. And um, we know that one thing that I realized in my time is people give to people. And even though they may love your cause, and it doesn't mean that if you leave that they necessarily won't donate anymore, but when I was development director, I really created these relationships with donors, and that trust and respect was very important. And so and really what that comes back to, Dawn, is making sure that your internal processes are that people understand who is responsible for what. There should, anytime somebody that you're asking sort of in regards to who that name should be contact, they are going to be talking that donor through. So one, they should be able to talk about what the benefits of donating stock are and what the process is, so that they can talk to the donor, and that sort of builds that trust also that, oh, okay, they sound like they know what they're doing essentially. And then making sure that the person that is in charge of that knows when that stock donation comes in. So a part of that process may be having your CFO alert the development director that that gift is in, because I had been in places where or I had been in that place where these large gifts come in and they just come into our bank account. They didn't come in through my donate form where I get notified, and then all of a sudden I'm speaking to a donor and they said, yes, well, I sent that major gift, and you feel almost embarrassed that you didn't know about that. So it is important, Don. I appreciate you bringing that up, that anybody that will be involved in that process knows what needs to happen. And then, but that there is one point of contact for the donor. Don't make that donor talk to 4 different people.
Yeah, and also, I think with regards to the clients that we work with, we have a report that says all of our, cash and withdrawal, deposits, cash deposits and withdrawals every day, as well as all the transfer ins and transfers out of securities every single day, from the prior day. So like our role in that scenario is, as soon as it's been received, then we go to our clients and let them know that, hey, this is how much it is, this is the value of it, so on and so forth. So you can let the donor know that it was safely received. If organizations are kind of doing it by themselves, then it's the case that, they should have a similar style of, process, set up for them. Most brokerages, banks, whatever, have some sort of alert system that you can set up when a transaction is recorded, some sort of daily transaction report. So again, having the process and everyone understands what their role and responsibility is so important. We're getting close to the end, so I'm going to take one more question that's in the chat, and then we'll hit the next slide just to chat about what we've got coming up next. So Ashley asks a great question, which is, what are the typical brokerage fees for a nonprofit? So I'm going to answer this question in 2 ways. If you're an organization, you're not working with an advisor, you don't have an endowment or quasi-endowment, or you don't have reserves that are being managed by someone else, you're just setting this up so you can receive donations. The costs are pretty much near zero. Like I personally prefer all of our clients to use Schwab because I think that Schwab is better than Fidelity, and I would die on that hill. But Fidelity does work. And Fidelity doesn't have account minimums. They don't require, ongoing balances. Typically, the fees for selling a security, as long as it's like an exchange listed security, are going to be $0. If it's an obscure over-the-counter security, it's not on one of the major exchanges, there might be a commission of like $5, but it's nothing crazy. And then you can link your bank account and you can move money out. So it is ultra low cost just to have this thing open and sitting there. There are no gimmicks. There's no other ways that they're going to really make money off you in that way. It's incredibly low. Now, if you do work with an investment advisor, obviously they're going to be serving, or at least they should be, so serving you as a governing fiduciary, as a managing fiduciary. They should be essentially doing what a financial advisor does for an individual, but for your organization. And so they're going to typically have a fee for, assets under management, or maybe even some more obscure cases like an ongoing monthly fee. How every, RAA, if you will, is different. Every advisor is different, but and then those fees can obviously are much different because for some they're much more encompassing. I know you have my email, so if you want to chat about that, just let me know and I can give you sort of more detail. But those, if you're just doing it by yourself, there's no fees, pretty much. Okay, so let's just hop onto the next slide so we can let you know what next month's topic is. So, of course, we're coming up to the end of the year. And this one's called the Year-End Giving Under the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it's going to be happening on Wednesday, November 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And the reason we're doing this is because the new law changes that are coming in, they're changing the way that donors can give. Some gifts would be smarter to make this year, and some it might make sense to wait until January 1st. So we're going to tell you what's changing, what stays the same, how you can take advantage of 2025, and also how you can plan for 2026. You can scan the QR code on your screen to register. We'd love for you to join us. And again, thank you for your time. We're going to send all the resources out later today or maybe tomorrow. And we'll also pop this on our YouTube channel so you can refer back. And if you have any questions, just reach out. Thanks for your time, everyone. It was great to see you all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, rest of your week.